It's not always about the stunts or the drama that gets replayed 100 times in slow motion. Sometimes the rawest, realest moments come when the cameras capture something unexpected. A quiet truth, a calm confession, a piece of honesty that hits you in your chest harder than any shouting match ever could. And that's exactly what happened when Marlene Holt, Martell Holt's mother, opened her mouth and spoke the truth the world had been waiting to hear. Now, if you follow Love and Marriage Huntsville, or even if you've just seen the viral clips, you already know Martell's story is filled with scandal, chaos, and one bad decision after another. From the cheating to the Instagram lives, from the court battles to the endless drama with Aryan, his name stays in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. But when his mother finally spoke up, it wasn't tabloid chatter, it wasn't gossip, and it wasn't messy shade. It was something else entirely. It was a mother laying her heart bare, saying the things she probably had wanted to say for years, but held back until she couldn't anymore. And the truth she told? It hurt not because it was cruel, but because it was so full of love, disappointment, and regret. What made Marlene's words so powerful is that she wasn't trying to play to the cameras. She wasn't trying to put on a performance or create a viral moment. She wasn't screaming, she wasn't dramatic, she wasn't looking for applause. She was calm, collected, almost too calm. And sometimes that calmness hits harder than a scream, because when the truth is heavy enough, you don't have to raise your voice. She spoke about her son, she spoke about Melody, she spoke about Aryan, but more than anything, she spoke about the gap between the man Martell could have been and the man he chose to be. And that gap, that's where all her sadness lived. She didn't just criticize, she didn't just blame, she didn't drag anyone. What she did was worse. She told the truth in such a plain, unfiltered way that nobody could deny it. No spin, no excuses. No cover-ups, just the truth, sitting there heavy on everyone's chest. When Marlene talked about Melody Sheree, it didn't sound like she was describing an ex-daughter-in-law. It sounded like she was describing someone who had been taken from the family too soon. There was sadness in her voice, but also respect, the kind of respect that only comes when you've seen someone carry more than their share of weight and do it with grace. Because let's be real, Melody was more than Martell's wife. She was the glue, she was the anchor. She was the balance that kept the whole family and even the brand together, while Martell was tearing it apart piece by piece. And Marlene saw it. She wasn't blind. She saw Melody covering for Martell, helping him look good when he didn't deserve it, holding the household, the image, and the empire together when Martell was too busy chasing chaos. That's why Marlene didn't just admire Melody, she almost seemed guilty when she spoke about her. Guilty that she hadn't said these things sooner. Guilty that she hadn't supported Melody more while she was still married to her son. Guilty because she knew Melody deserved better and didn't get it. That guilt wasn't spoken directly, but you could feel it in every word, every pause, every glance. It was regret disguised as respect. And then there's Aryan. Now, Marlene could have gone off. She could have dragged her name through the dirt, and honestly, no one would have been surprised if she did. But she didn't. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult her. She didn't even give her that much energy. Instead, she used one word to describe her son's decade-long relationship with Aryan: event. Think about that. Not love, not relationship, not mistake, just an event. That one word took a 10-year situation and stripped it of every ounce of meaning: cold, empty, detached. And that's how deep Marlene's disappointment runs. Because when a mother can't even bring herself to call what her son is doing love, that's not shade, that's heartbreak. That's sadness so heavy that it doesn't even come out angry anymore. It comes out tired, done, over it. The hardest moment came when Marlene mentioned Maverick, the child who didn't ask to be part of this chaos, but was born right into the middle of it. You could see the shift in her face the moment she said his name. Not because she doesn't love him, she does. She loves that little boy with everything in her. But Maverick is also the living proof of the choice that broke her family apart. He's the reminder that things will never be the same again. That's the kind of complicated love only a grandmother can understand. Loving the child, but mourning what the child represents. Loving the boy, but hurting for the family that fractured around his birth. Every time she sees him, she doesn't just see her grandson, she sees the moment Martell's life took a turn it may never recover from. And that's a heavy, heavy weight to carry. But here's where it really gets real. Cheating wasn't even the biggest problem. The biggest issue is that Martell refuses to take responsibility. Over and over again, no matter what happens, he finds a way to shift the blame. There's always an excuse, always a justification, always a way to convince himself and sometimes others that he didn't do anything that bad. And that's what Marlene is really angry about, because mistakes can be forgiven. Everybody slips up, everybody makes bad choices, but patterns? Patterns are different. Patterns mean you're not just making mistakes, you're living in them. And that's exactly what Martell is doing. He's made a whole soundtrack out of denial, repeating the same excuses so often that they've become his reality. And Marlene has heard it all before. She's done listening. Meanwhile, Melody has been moving differently. She's not online, clapping back every day. She's not trying to drag Martell or even give Aryan the time of day. Instead, she's been building quietly, making moves, signing deals, walking red carpets, and raising her kids with grace. She's showing the world that peace is louder than chaos, that leaving a toxic situation isn't weakness, it's survival. Every time she takes another step forward, she proves that strength doesn't always come with a loud voice. Sometimes it comes with silence and focus, and you can tell Marlene sees that too. Even if she doesn't say it outright, there's a quiet respect, almost admiration, in the way she speaks about Melody. And that brings us to the most important part of Marlene's truth. This wasn't for the cameras. This wasn't for views. This wasn't a stunt. This was a last warning. When a mother stops covering for you, stops defending you, and just tells the truth plain and simple, that's it. That's the last line. That's the moment where you either get up and change, or you fall further into the pit you've been digging. Marlene still believes her son can turn things around. She still thinks he's not too far gone. But every time he chooses pride over growth, every time he hides behind excuses, every time he points the finger instead of looking in the mirror, the harder it gets to believe that. And she knows time is running out. What makes this whole situation so painful is that the good wasn't imaginary. The good was real. The happy family, the strong partnership, the brand they built together, the meals shared around the table, the balance, the stability, the laughter, it was all real. And Martell let it slip away piece by piece until there was nothing left. That's what Marlene mourns the most. Not just what her son has become, but the man he used to be. The man who had everything in front of him. The man who had a wife, children, and a future that could have been powerful, stable, and lasting. That man isn't dead, but he's gone. And the man standing in his place is still trying to convince himself it wasn't that deep, still trying to rewrite history as if the good times weren't really that good and the loss wasn't really that big. But the truth doesn't care about excuses. The truth doesn't care about Instagram lives. And when the truth comes out of your own mother's mouth, you can't spin that away. At the end of the day, Marlene's words weren't just about Martell. They weren't just about Melody. They weren't even about Aryan. They were about the universal pain of watching someone you love throw their life away while you stand on the sidelines, powerless to stop it. She wasn't angry, she wasn't petty, she was heartbroken, and she was real enough to let that heartbreak speak. That's what made her words so heavy. That's what made them go viral. Because we all know what it feels like to watch potential get wasted, to watch love get lost, to watch someone self-destruct when they had everything they needed to win. And that's why this moment matters. Not because of the drama, not because of the scandal, but because of the truth. The truth that Martell still has time, but not much. The truth that if he doesn't face himself soon, he may lose the last chance he has to turn things around. So now the question isn't what Marlene said. The question is whether Martell is finally ready to hear it. So what do you think? Do you believe Martell can turn things around? Or is the damage already too deep? Was Marlene too late in saying all this? Or was her timing perfect? Drop your thoughts in the comments.